Hey folks, so this is just a quick video on how the class time is going to look under this new model. So every class I'm going to give you a do now that's going to help you just plan your time a little bit. And in that do now, I'll show you what it looks like in a second. In that do now, I tell you to check the pacing tracker and make sure it matches your Google Classroom. Okay? So what I mean by that is every unit will have a spreadsheet on the website, and this will be just on the home page. And here's an example of what it looks like. So this one is not very exciting because I don't have any data in it yet, but what you will do is you will look for your name in one of these three columns, and this will tell you if you're keeping up, if you're a little bit behind, if you're ahead, or if you have something you need to revise. So say you just did a quiz assignment and I want you to make corrections on it, your name will be in this column. Okay, so notice all these folks are just starting out. So you'd find your name in this column and it would say work on 0.1. You'd find that lesson and you could jump in, right? Omar in this case, by virtue of being the first person alphabetically in my first period, is my example. So he is on lesson 1.1.1. So he might go over to the side here and click the navigation and click on 1.1.1. Okay. And then in his Google Classroom, everything before this should be turned in, right? So we're making sure we keep that up to date. So that's the pacing tracker. So I'll update this every class to give you an idea of whether you're keeping pace with the rest of the class. I'll talk more about pacing in the next video. For now, I want to jump into the do now and the closing. So the do now is just like a little check-in. It's going to be informative. The first thing it does is it prompts you to check that pacing tracker and check your Google Classroom. Then I just ask you about your mood. And then here are the nuts and bolts. So what lesson are you beginning with today? So that would come from the pacing tracker. So if I'm Omar, I'd say 1.1.1. And then what's your goal to finish by the end of class? So you can be ambitious. Usually you'll finish 1 to 2 lessons in class. So you could be ambitious and say 1.1.3 to say maybe he's partway done with 1.1.1 and he's gonna knock out 2 lessons today. And then here, if you need anything in particular, you can let me know in this box. But that is the do now. The really crucial thing for our class to run well is number 2 here. So figuring out what lesson you're on and doing that accurately is really going to help us out. Because what we'll do is after this is done, I will open breakout rooms and I will show you what the breakout rooms look like. So you will join the breakout room based on what you said, right? So on your Zoom, it may look different from mine, but you'll click breakout rooms. And then because he said 1.1.1, that's what he's working on. You click join and then yes, right? And they're in there because this is just me. But what this does is it allows us to group up folks who are working on the same thing. And it allows me as your teacher to help you out in groups. Okay. So that's the purpose of this. So pay attention to that question number 2. So that's the beginning of class. At the end of class, you're really just going to think about how well you use your time. Okay, so this is going to be a shift for some folks, but for others, you're going to find this really productive. So class time, you're going to get a lot of work done if you use it wisely. I have another thing that I'll ask you to fill out the last 4 or 5 minutes of class. And it looks like this. So I ask you, did you meet your goal today? So if I'm Omar, I'm thinking, did I get to 1.3? And then you rate your productivity. So if you killed it, you click 10. If you didn't get a whole lot done, you click 1 or somewhere in the middle, right? And then this last question, this is the most important thing. Okay? So the expectation is still that you complete work outside of class on the days we don't see each other, right? But because we're going to be working at different paces, you need to plan that for yourself. Okay, so what you will do here is list the lesson or lessons that you plan to complete before our next class. Okay, and here's an example of what that will look like. We'll talk a little bit more about pacing in the next video, but in order to stay on pace, you're going to have to plan to do some work outside of class and make sure you actually do that. Okay. So we'll close there, answer the questions below the video, and then move on to the next lesson.